He's Tim.
And he's Harry.
And we're about to turn paper sideways.
You're listening to Turn Paper Sideways, the podcast where we talk about cardboard and rotating it 90 degrees.
We talk about all things Magic the Gathering, from current affairs to our favourite format, Commander. And in today's show, we present to you our favourite cards from Guilds of Ravnica.
Yeah, we do. But before we get to that, if you want to find us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at TPSMTG.
You could send us an email at turnpapersideways@gmail.com. Send us love mail, hate mail, or complaints about various illnesses you may have. Like me, I'm struggling through this one.
Everyone, put in an artificial, there, that'd be good.
Nah.
Okay, don't do that. You can find us on YouTube if you search for Turn Paper Sideways. Give us a follow, and pretty soon we'll have a link for you to follow instead of just telling you to search for us.
Yeah, and if you'd like to support us, you can give us 5-star ratings on iTunes or go to patreon.com/turnpapersideways and donate as little as $1 an episode, which goes a really long way in keeping the good content coming.
Harry, would you like to do the news?
Yes, I would.
Harry, tales from the pre-release. Did you go to a pre-release, Harry?
I did.
Did you have lots and lots of fun?
Yes, I did.
Me too. What a coincidence.
Amazing.
Tell me about what you did. What guild did you go with?
I picked up a Golgari box, and I didn't have any good Undergrowth payoffs in there. I had 3 Undergrowth cards total, and they were all the really bad ones. So I muddled through with basically just a Sultai value deck. I splashed blue for a couple of good flyers and some Surveil cards, and basically just had a generic sort of value deck. I think it was just a good limited deck. There wasn't anything sort of really splashy in there. I didn't have any big bombs to build towards. But I had a great time anyway. I won 3 of my matches. I drew 1 and I lost 1, and I just had a really good day. We had a really good turnout at the shop I was at. Lots of people trying out new things and having a lot of fun. It was a great time, and I think that you've also got some cool stories to tell us.
I do, yeah.
I haven't heard any of these either.
Well,
this will be the first time.
My favourite story of the day was that I didn't win. Harry, are you ready for this? A single game.
I did know that. I'm sorry, Tim.
But no, it's okay, because I still had fun, and there were people there who would have not had fun doing such losing, and that's my excuse, and that's what's making me feel okay about it, because I didn't win a single game. I had a lot of fun though. I went Izzet. I had an Izzet box. My pre-release promo also happened to be my favourite card from the set.
Amazing.
So that was a win. You'll find out what that is later in the episode. But I built an Izzet deck, and I wanted to splash black, but didn't. And then, kind of, as people were finishing building their decks, a couple of people next to me were testing theirs. They both had Izzet, and they were both splashing black. And I was like, I think I'm going to splash black. So I just chucked the locket in there and the 3 black cards I wanted to play. Yeah, I had a really good time. My brother went Selesnya, and he got an Amara for his
cool.
promo, which is the card he wanted as well, which is sweet. Yeah, I had a really good time. There was about 40 people at the pre-release I went to, which it was really good fun.
Brilliant. Did you see any foil Assassin's trophies opened? Was Assassin's Trophy used against you at all?
No, I only saw it once, and it was from a pre-release earlier in the day. I was talking to my friend Joe, and he had the most bonkers Selesnya deck. He ended up building an Abzan deck, but he had 2 Amaras, one of them being promo. He had an Assassin's Trophy. He had all the ways of making tokens. He had just the best deck. It was so good. It was like flicking through it. I'd be like, whoa, Joe, look at this. He was like, yeah, keep going. I'd flick through, Assassin's Trophy. It's unbelievable. It was
awesome.
I was so happy. Everyone was just pre-release is definitely my favourite way to play Magic. Everyone's so relaxed. Everyone's there just to have fun and play with new cards. There's no kind of edge. Everyone's just, woohoo, yeah, if you want to change deck between rounds, that's fine. It's great fun.
Awesome. So what cool things happened to you? You've told me that you've got some cool stories. Are we saving
I
them
have.
for later, or are we having them now? Can we
Oh,
give a
I
little
think
hint?
I. I can't tell you my stories because they all involve my favourite cards or honourable mentions at the end.
Oh, cool. So the news
What about you?
really is that there is no news.
There's no news. Do you have any cool stories that you want to share?
Not really any cool stories. I lost. We were really hoping that in my playgroup that we'd all play each other. I only played one person from my playgroup, and we were the only two people who played each other in the entire pre-release, and I lost to him.
Oh,
So that
woohoo.
was my one loss of the day.
Great story.
So that's a great story. There you go. Other than that, nothing really crazy happened. Nothing amazing. I didn't see anyone storm off with Thousand Year Storm, or I didn't even see a giant March of the Multitudes cast. I didn't see any Assassin's trophies. It was fairly tame, mine, but it was just proper wholesome magic.
That's good. That's the dream. All right, let's get on to the main topic.
So the main topic this week is our top 5 cards from the new set. This is we'll find out. We'll find out how exciting this is. Tim, I think, is super excited about this. So this is a super exciting set. So we're going to go down our top 5 cards like we always do. These are our top cards for EDH from Guilds of Ravnica.
I went first last time, Harry. I think it's only fair that I go first again. So my first card is March of the Multitudes. For X green white. It is an instant with Convoke, which is your creatures can help you cast it by tapping for mana, and they either add 1 or a colour of that creature. So if you tap a green creature, you add green to help cast the spell, which is amazing. So it's Convoke, and it says create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens with lifelink. So 3 mana plus however many creatures you've got or however much land you've got, create a bunch of tokens, and it's an instant.
That's so important about this card.
Yes, this is the sort of thing you do at the end of your opponent's turn if you didn't attack last time, and you double the amount of creatures, if not a little bit more, and then next turn you swing in with a bunch of 1/1 lifelinks. Just a massive swing to the game if you can get an attack with all these creatures. I died to this card.
Yeah, I didn't see this one, but in Limited, this is amazing. And in EDH, it's a little bit stupid. It reminds me a little bit of White Sun Zenith, which is, I think it's green, and X, create X. Is it 2/2 cats? And that's an instant as well. But the fact that this has Convoke is amazing. You put this in a token deck and you are going to value town. The ceiling on this card is so high, and I don't think that the floor is that low either. I think that this is just an all-round good card. It's made especially good by the fact that Fibblethip is in the art.
So he is.
You've got to look really closely.
It's right in the middle at the bottom, hiding behind someone's leg. Fibblethip is a... what is he?
He's a homunculus.
Homunculus. And if that doesn't make you want to play Magic, nothing will. So this card is bonkers. But it did make me think about the card Second Harvest, which is 2 green for an instant, and it's for each token you control, create a copy of that token. So it's kind of like March of the Multitudes in that you are doubling all of your creatures. It's always going to be 4 mana, but there is, I think, more of a ceiling in that you already have to have tokens for this to work. You can't have generic creatures out that you cast from your deck and your hand. And if you have rubbish 1/1 tokens without lifelink, this Second Harvest doesn't give you those. This does. This almost always has the capacity to be double your creatures, and half of them now have lifelink. So I think if Second Harvest is the bar, I still think March of the Multitudes is better.
Yeah, I agree. I do think so. We talked about Second Harvest in our second part of the deck building series, and we talked about it in reference that it could be a win more card. So it only really does stuff if you're already ahead. But I think March of the Multitudes is. I think that March of the Multitudes can be used when you're at parity because you can use your token, your whatever token creatures you've got, and your utility creatures to get yourself a little bit further ahead. So yeah, great card, great pick.
Thank you. Harry, you're number 5.
My number 5 is Beast Whisperer. It's 2 green for a 2/3 elf druid, and it says whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. Nice and simple. I've got a few cards like this in my mono green Selvala deck. Things that say whenever you cast a creature, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you draw a card. And like we always say, it's just nice to staple draw a card onto what you're already planning on doing. And creatures are the lifeblood of Magic, and sort of there are so many good creatures in EDH. I'd say that almost all of my decks play around 30 creatures. It takes a very specific deck to not want creatures, and so this is just great card draw in, I'd say, the majority of decks.
Yeah, Primordial Sage and Soul of the Harvest both have this similar effect. One of them is cast, one of them is enters, I think. They're different power, obviously, but they're both 6 mana. And I think from my opinion, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, EDH seems to be getting a little bit more, not competitive, that's the wrong word, but kind of the edge is getting a bit more sharp.
It's getting quicker. The format is edging towards lower curve decks for sure.
So having that effect on a 4-mana creature, you don't necessarily care about the power, because this is a utility creature. This isn't what you're going to win the game with.
No, and I do seriously consider about whether... there are only so many 6-mana slots, and I really do consider putting things in at 4 mana instead if the effect is the same or similar. So exactly. I think this would probably, rather than going into decks as well as whatever it's called, the 6
Primordial Sage,
the other
Soul of the Harvest,
Soul of the Harvest, rather than going into the decks as well as Soul of the Harvests, I think this is going to replace Soul of the Harvest in the decks that I've got it in.
Okay. I know that cards in your decks have to really compete for their spot. They're going to really. You're always looking at which cards you can take out. Your decks change more than anyone I know. So
really,
yeah, I think so. Yeah, you're the most. You look at your decks a lot. I think maybe I'm wrong.
I'm in a play group where we do tweak quite a lot, and we're always trying to get the edge, and we eke out incremental and small percentage advantages. So
min-maxing.
I think we are a min-max play group for sure. So that's Brilliant. Probably why. Your number 4, please.
Is a 6-drop, but it doesn't go in the same deck.
It's already rubbish then, isn't it?
I didn't get this. This is an Is It card, and I didn't get it, and I was sad. And I didn't see it either. This is 1,000-Year Storm. Harry mentioned it earlier. 4 blue-red for an enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it. Each other instant and sorcery spell you've cast before it this turn. You may choose new targets for the copies. What this means is, if you've cast 3 spells and you cast the 4th, copy it 4 times.
3 times, yeah.
That's 3.
So you get 4 copies total.
It's just insane. Like this is. I mean, there are no words. There are many words, but I don't have them. If you have some cantrips, just cast them a bunch of times because they're such low mana. Or if you suspend some cards, or if you just get some cheap cards, and then you can cast that really big one. This is really sweet. This is a very exciting card. I can definitely see a lot of decks being built around this, if not just slotted straight into some Is It decks.
Yeah, definitely. This is, I think, a real build-around card. You've got to have the whole deck building towards this card for it to work properly. You can't just slot it into a spells deck. It'll be fine, but I think this is to be played as one of the main win cons in an Is It deck. I think the idea with this is you either drop it down the turn before you plan to win, or you generate loads of mana and you drop this on the turn that you're going to win, and you storm off that way. But I think that Storm is a strategy that's not very easy to pull off in EDH, and I think this is a card that will make it much more possible.
Does this see the spells you've cast before this? So if I cast 2 instants and then play this, so this is sweet. Someone in our playgroup, Eamon, has a Storm deck, and I can definitely see this being in. I think it's a Joyra Suspend deck.
Cool, awesome.
One thought I did have about this card is I was thinking about Mizzix, and do I want to put it in Mizzix? And do I want to keep my Mizzix deck, because it's mostly just counters and I never really play it? And the answer is I do want to keep it. And this card's going in. And is it good with a bunch of counter spells? So you lightning bolt me, I mean, that's a really bad example, and I counter it, and then you do something else, and I counter that, and then I get another free counter spell. So is that pointless, or is it then really good when I cast burn and burn you 3 times? So I'd like to see how it works.
I mean, you're sort of doubling up your counter spell protection. I don't know if that's a great use for this though.
No. If someone storms off, then you can. If you're storming off as well, I don't know. Not the best use of this card. Find a better use. Harry, what's your number 4?
Things like Blue Sun Zenith that's probably a better use.
Yeah.
If you can
drawing a bunch of cards.
Yeah, but you could
Twice.
You could Blue Sun Zenith all of your opponents at once. Because you can choose new targets for the copies. So target player, you just pick a different target player. So that's the way of picking everyone at once.
Probably Grixis Mill.
Perfect. You can just do it. Amazing. All right, my number 4. It has to do with drawing cards again. There's a bit of a theme developing here. I turn up at EDH night to draw cards and Durble and draw more cards. So here's another card to help me do it. It's Midnight Reaper, 2 and a black for a 3/2 zombie knight, and it says whenever a non-token creature you control dies, Midnight Reaper deals 1 damage to you and draw a card. I did open this at pre-release. It was the best card in the deck by far. This took me to Value Town very quickly, and the game that I lost, this lost me the game.
Oh, really?
Because, so I had a whole table full of blockers, and I could either take the damage and die that way, or I could block and all of my creatures would die, and Midnight Reaper was on the board, so I lost a life for each creature that died.
Oh, man.
So I died anyway. But I just think in EDH this is amazing. I've got an Abzan token deck, but it's got 35 creatures in it. It's all about sacrifice synergies and graveyard recursion and stuff. And so this is already in there. This is such a fantastic card for that kind of strategy. I think this is sort of a staple in Golgari and Abzan decks.
Yeah, for sure. The Abzan deck that I'm half building, half just finding cards around the house, this definitely goes in there. Just another thing to pay off your creatures dying and to draw more cards. Both of those things they're brilliant.
Yeah, amazing. Should we go to number 3?
So my number 3 is Guildmage's Forum. This is a land and it has tap to add colourless. Is that colourless or do we say generic?
Colourless.
That's colourless. Thanks, Harry. Or you can pay 1 and tap it to add 1 mana of any colour. If that mana is spent to cast a multicoloured creature this turn, that creature enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. Almost always, your commander is multicoloured.
Majority
there are
of the
5
time,
instances when it isn't. This is Opal Palace. The first time you use it, because Opal Palace cares about how many times it's been cast from the command zone, so it's 1 that counters, then 2 counters the second time, and so on. This doesn't get better as the game goes on, but at the beginning it's exactly the same. It's fixing for your colours, it makes your commander bigger, it also makes all your other creatures bigger, which is really important. I think I'd rather have this than Opal Palace. I think I'll have both if I'm playing one of them though.
Okay, I do really like Opal Palace in some decks, so something like a Marchesa deck, this would be great.
Yes.
But it is fixing at the cost of a mana, so you're spending 2 lands to get 1 mana, and that's
true.
A bit of a drawback, and so I think this has to go in the right deck.
Yeah, thing is, the deck that wants it for me is Atraxa. I don't have an Atraxa deck, but I can definitely see this being an Atraxa.
Yeah.
But like you say...
Cool.
At the cost of a mana, you're getting a mana. So you're already trying to get 4 separate colours, and then this is making you have to spend one of those to get another one. So I don't know. I mean, you need fixing in a 4-colour deck for sure.
Yeah. I also think that it depends on the speed of your play group. So in a slightly slower, jankier play group, this is an amazing card. We've got a Marchesa deck in my play group, and I don't think he'd play this in that deck because it's a bit too quick. So I think it just depends on the speed of the decks that you're playing against.
Yeah. Well, I thought it's definitely a commander card. Definitely.
Oh yeah, it's great, sure. And I love budget mana fixing. If you can make your mana base for less than the cost of some of the shocks and jewels and fetches and things that people put in, that's a real bonus.
Yeah, that really is. Harry, what's your number 3?
Well, my number 3 actually follows on from that topic. I think this card makes some of the most slated lands in Magic for EDH playable. This is Circuitous Route. It's 3 and a green for a sorcery, and it says search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and or gate cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library. So this is strictly better than Explosive Vegetation. Explosive Vegetation has the same mana cost, it's a sorcery, and it says go and find 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped. But this lets you go and find 2 gates, which lets you find 4 colours of mana, potentially.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That's a big deal.
That's amazing. And so I think that this actually makes Guild Gates playable in Commander. I'm going to put this into one of my slower 4-colour decks and put Guild Gates in. I've always thought that Guild Gates are too rubbish to play in EDH, but I'm actually going to put this in a 4-colour deck so that I can play Guild Gates because they come in tapped anyway. Explosive Vegetation brings basic lands in tapped, and so being able to get an extra 2 colours of mana is amazing.
Yeah, I'm fetching and shocking my my 5-colour Tazri deck. It kind of makes me think, oh man, maybe I should have gone down the Gates route. And then I remember that Gates come in tapped, so I feel less sad. But yeah, this is really sweet. I was really excited when I saw this. This is definitely an answer for a weak set of cards.
Yeah. But it also means, I think my honourable mentions will cover this a bit more. It means that maybe that Maze's End deck is going to make a comeback. More on that later. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is Atrata the Silencer. This is one of the legendary creatures. This is the Dimir one. So 2 blue-black for a 3/5 legendary creature, vampire assassin. That is a very long creature line.
That's a mouthful, isn't it?
They're very lucky to fit that in. I think the text might be slightly smaller anyway. And it says, Atrata the Silencer can't be blocked. Nice. And whenever Atrata deals combat damage to a player, exile target creature that player controls and put a hit counter on that card. So it's exiled with a little counter on it. That player loses the game if they own 3 or more exiled cards with hit counters on them. Atrata's owner shuffles Atrata into their library. If I could have one thing changed about this card, it would be to move that last sentence before the part about losing the game, because I definitely thought that I only had to shuffle Atrata into the deck after a player had lost the game, and I thought it was only there for EDH reasons, multiplayer reasons.
Yeah, unfortunately not. So, are you still thinking that you'd like to build around this as a commander?
Dimir just doesn't excite me very much. No.
Okay.
I mean, but if you... maybe in a deck, I just... Blue-black.
But this is your top 2. This is your second best card. Why? Tell us why.
So I had this in my pre-release pool. This was one of the cards I splashed black for, and I managed to get someone to 2 hit counters on their exiled creatures, and they killed me. That was the first game I played, I think, and it was definitely very, very grindy. It was really fun. I got beat down, and then I stabilized, and then I was back there, and then flipping giant hexproof convoke creature. That thing is bonkers good. That was this card was a lot of fun, and it just summed up that kind of moment. Summed up why pre-releases is so fun for me, because we were just having so much fun. Both of us almost lost, and
cool.
it was great fun.
Oh, amazing. I do like that this creates a little mini game in Limited, because you're playing with a much smaller deck. Your chances of drawing it are higher.
Yes.
But to build around an EDH, the latest game nights featured a deck built around Atrata the Silencer, and so there's an episode about it. She didn't manage to get it to work in that game nights episode, but the idea is really cool. Flickering Atrata when the trigger hits the stack, and all sorts of things to make token copies of Atrata. Your favourite card, Mirror Gallery, Tim. Things like that, just to get as much value out of it as possible. I really like this design space. I think it's really interesting. Just something totally different. It creates a little mini game. It's something that people are going to be worried about, but it's not broken. It's sort of dangerous in a fun way, rather than in a this hits the battlefield, suddenly I win kind of way.
Yeah.
These sorts of cards are a reminder that we're playing a game. Yes,
absolutely. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. And just quickly, you touched on that you're not likely to draw it in a big deck, but in Limited, you've got less cards to draw. I definitely hit my opponent shuffled it into the deck. He didn't cut it, which makes me feel a little bit like, oh, I really should have made him cut it. And then it was my turn, drew the top card. I was like, I'm really sorry. And I just put it back down. I was
Nice.
like, I got you. This was when I got the 2, and then I lost. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. And you're right, this is the game within a game is always fun. Sometimes literally and unstable, the card that makes you have a game within a game, but the figurative game within a game is good.
Still extra fun.
What's your number 2, Harry?
My second favourite card is Divine Visitation. 3 white for an enchantment. It says if one or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead. So if you have this on the board, you drop your Avenger of Zendikar, you don't get plants, you get Serra Angels. If you play March of the Multitudes, you don't get 1/1 soldiers, you get Serra Angels. If you play anything, if you play a Wormcoil engine and sacrifice it, instead of a 3/3 with lifelink and a 3/3 with death touch, you get 2 Serra Angels. Amazing. I just think this is nuts. It's a real win more card, but it's super fun. I think there's going to be some cool decks in standard built around this. There were definitely some cool decks in limited. You've got to work really hard to pull this off because there aren't actually that many token makers in Guilds of Ravnica. But
No.
In
March of the
EDH,
Multitudes.
well, yeah, you combine it with that and it's amazing. But in EDH, there are hundreds of great token makers. So if you just stick this on the battlefield, you are going to have a great time.
Yeah, this was on my the short list for sure. This is really like, pair this with Doubling Season or Parallel Lives or the other one, the white one from
Anointed Procession.
Anointed Procession. I just am so bad at remembering card names. Thank you, Harry.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so make a 1/1 nothing, get 2 4/4 with flying.
Yeah.
Deal. That's brilliant. And I realise that's a lot of setup cost, but this is EDH. This is where Magic Christmas Land happens. So this is a card I definitely like.
Well, my Abzan token deck is all about living magical Christmas land. I haven't done it yet, but one day I will have Anointed Procession and Parallel Lives on the battlefield at the same time and sacrifice my Wormcoil engine for loads of tokens. But until then, I'm just living in magical Christmas land and dreaming. But I'm thinking about putting Divine Visitation in. I just think that will be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Have you played much with your Abzan tokens deck?
A few games. It's grown from my Golgari deck. So as long as I've been playing EDH, pretty much, I've had this Golgari deck, and I've finally added white. I've been wanting to for ages, and I bit the bullet and did it. And so I've got a Teneb deck. Teneb, the well-known token commander. Yeah, it's fun. It does pretty much the same things my Golgari deck did, just with Swords to Plowshares and Revelark and Karmic Guide. So what's not to like?
What? Who doesn't love infinite combos? When are you going to add red for Murderous Redcap?
Next week, I think.
My number 1, the card I was most excited about, well, maybe second after Steam Vents. This card was my pre-release promo. I was very, very happy. Is Quasi-Duplicate. 1, a blue for a sorcery, and it says, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. That effect is brilliant. But wait, there's more. It has Jumpstart, which says you may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to paying its other cost, then exile this card. So
Nice.
You can do this twice.
Oh, yes. You just decide that a card in your hand is not good enough, and you turn that card into your hand into a quasi-duplicate instead.
Yes. Never before
Amazing.
in Limited have I felt so good than when I could have played a land. I had 2 lands in my hand. I hadn't played one this turn, and I thought, you know what? No, I'm playing Jumpstart. I'll hold on to these. I don't need them. And I did use them both to Jumpstart cards, and it felt so good.
Oh, awesome.
Gonna cheat a little bit here and tell you one of my honourable mentions before you've even given your number 1, but I have a story about Quasi-Duplicate. So Thief of Sanity is flying 2/2 for 1 blue black, and it says Whenever Thief of Sanity deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 3 cards of that player's library. Exile one of them face down, then put the rest into your graveyard. For as long as that card remains exiled, you may look at it, you may cast it, and you may spend mana as though it was any colour to cast that spell.
That card is amazing, and it's the second most annoying card in the set, and I hated playing against it in Limited.
Well, did you enjoy... Well, you didn't get to, but I got to play it and then copy it twice. I had 3 of these out on the board.
That's horrible.
And I got to swing with all 3. I was playing against a very, very good Selesnya deck. This was in the last round. Both of our opponents had dropped out, so it was just for fun. And this Selesnya deck was really good. Had some really good cards in there, really well built. And so I hit her 3 times with a Thief of Sanity, and one of the cards I took was Assure and Assemble, which is a split card, which basically makes tokens and makes one of your creatures bigger and indestructible. And I kept up 6 mana so I could cast it, 8 mana even, so I could cast both sides, and I was really excited. One of the other spells I took from Thief of Sanity was just a 1/1 flyer, I think, with lifelink. And I could have cast that, but I didn't. And then I was on 1 life, and my opponent had a Skyline Scout out, which is a 1 and a white for a 2/1, which says whenever it attacks, you can pay 1 and a white, and if you do, it gains flying. And I didn't think, because she hadn't been doing that, and I was on 1 life.
Oh, no.
I'd just taken 3 of her best cards from the top 9 of her deck, and then I was like, all right, your turn, and she was like, I attack and give it flying. I was like, no, because I was so excited, and I was like, I've got these cards, I could cast them, but I still die. It was a really good game. That was how I ended my pre-release.
Amazing.
Yeah, Quasi-Duplicate. Didn't really talk about that card just then. I talked about lots of other cards. Copying your creatures is always really fun. This goes in my favourite deck. It is exactly what I want to do. It creates tokens of creatures I control, and I know the creatures I play, so I know that I like them. This is so much fun, and you get to cast it twice. It's very similar to Cackling Counterpart, which is exactly the same, except it's got flashback for I think 5 and a blue or 5 blue, but it's a lot more mana basically.
Okay, so this has flashback for losing an extra card rather than paying more mana, so mana. That's great.
Yeah,
nice.
Harry, we didn't do a drum roll for me, so we're gonna have to really extra loud drum roll. So you're gonna have to do it with your mouth because you didn't do that last time. Please.
I'm ill, so I don't have to do it this time either.
Just cough into the microphone.
I'll just edit
no,
one
don't
in.
do that. That's gross.
Okay, cool. My number 1 card is Underrealm Lich. This is the most annoying card in the set, I think. It's 3 black and green for a 4/3 zombie elf shaman. It's got all of the tribes. If you would draw a card, instead look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put 1 into your hand and the rest into your graveyard, and you can pay 4 life to give it indestructible until end of turn and tap it. This is Sylvan Library Lich, or Sensei's Divining Lich, I like to call it. I just think that the value here is enormous.
I was going to say, you text me earlier in the week saying, top of my list is Sensei's Divining Lich. And I Googled that because I was like, I don't know that card. I went on Mythic Spoiler and I was looking through, I was like, I can't find it. I Googled Sensei's Divining Lich and it auto-corrected it to Sensei's Divining Top. So yeah, don't do that. That was confusing. This card
it's actually called Underrealm Lich. It's silly. The value here is amazing. For limited, for constructed, standard, I think this is amazing in EDH. I love to play Sylvan Library. I love to play Sensei's Divining Top. I love to have stuff in my graveyard. I've just mentioned my Absan deck, which is all about recursion and stuff in my graveyard, so that's amazing. This basically just goes in every Golgari deck ever. And it's really hard to remove. And it's got a fairly relevant body in EDH, and it's in 3 very relevant tribes in EDH. So it's just amazing. The problem is, though, that on every single one of your turns, you're going to spend 5 minutes deciding which card you want to draw, and that is going to drive your opponent up the wall. So if you like this card, please practice at decision-making and making a decision between 3 cards very fast.
Or just practice winning faster, so you don't have to have as many turns.
Or be prepared to pay 4 life over and over and over and over again and kill yourself in the game to stop your opponents from hating you.
I mean, another way of looking at that ability, which makes it sound a lot worse, is you can only do that 10 times before you're dead.
Yes.
Or
yeah, so it is
in
a problem.
normal Magic.
But how many
5
times is somebody going to cast a removal spell on it?
Once or twice.
Yeah, and I'm quite happy to pay 4 life once to keep this around, and then we'll assess the second time.
Yeah. I mean, like, I always compare things to counter spells, but if a creature said pay 4 life counter target spell that targets a creature you control, you'd play that. That's pretty good. So
yes,
this is sweet.
Well, I'd quite happily play this if it was 5 mana and said when this enters the battlefield, pay 4 life.
Yeah. Yes. Perfect.
I'd still play it then to have that effect.
Yeah. It's a shame it's not legendary. This card looks like a legendary creature. It's got a lot of text. It's got magnificent art.
I wonder if it was supposed to be legendary, and for some reason they cut down on the number of legends they were going to have, or something like that.
I'd believe that if someone told me that's the case.
Yeah, who knows? Anyway, definitely my favourite. Definitely going to be the most annoying card in a lot of games. So the honourable mentions, Tim. Of course, we can't fit all of these amazing cards into just 5 selections, so we've got to add a couple on to the end.
Yeah. You've already heard one of mine, which was Thief of Sanity. The second most annoying card in the set after Sensei's Divining Lich. Harry, what's one of your honourable mentions?
Well, we alluded to this earlier. One of my honourable mentions is Guild Summit. It's 2 and a blue for an enchantment, and it says when it enters the battlefield, you may tap any number of untapped gates you control and draw a card for each gate tapped this way. And it also says whenever a gate enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So you get to draw cards off your guild gates at both ends, which makes the Maze's End deck even more possible. Having a payoff for having bad lands in your deck is sweet. We've also got an extra gate in this set. It's called Gateway Plaza, and it's like Transguild Promenade. So when it enters the battlefield, you sacrifice it unless you pay 1, then it taps for 1 mana of any colour. But that makes 11 total gates you can put into an EDH deck. So 5 colour Maze's End deck could be a thing. I really want to do it. This card is amazing. Pick this first in draft and then just grab all the gates. Like Gavin was saying in our last episode, you're going to have a great time. It's brilliant. And also there's another creature in this set called District Guide. It's 2 and a green for a 2/2 Elf Scout, and when it enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic land or a gate, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. So we're just being given the tools to make that deck work.
And we've got 2 more Ravnica sets coming out, so that's the capacity for 4, maybe 5 more Gates Matters cards. That'd be,
who knows,
maybe more. I don't know. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So I would quite like to try it out. I don't know if it's going to be any good. I do like alternative win conditions, but we'll see. But it just seems fun.
Yeah. One of my honourable mentions is also from my my pre-release experience. This card is really good and very sneaky. I think this card is better than we think in EDH. Maybe we'll find out. It's Notion Rain, 1 blue-black for a sorcery. Surveil 2, which means you look at the top 2. You can put them either back on top or into your graveyard. So it's kind of better than Scry. And then you draw 2 cards.
Better than Scry.
And you take 2 damage. Yeah, definitely better than Scry. So you Surveil 2, you draw 2, and then you take 2. Very even, very nice kind of symmetrical design. I like that.
Yep.
Feels good. You don't have to really keep track. If it was 1 life or 1 draw 1, it would be confusing. But thing to be careful of though, if you play this in limited, that's 10% of your deck. If you put the 2 Surveil cards into your graveyard and then draw the next 2, you're gonna deck yourself.
Yeah, but you've seen 10% of your deck. Amazing.
Yes, but I also lost one of my games because I decked myself, Harry.
Oh, whoops. I didn't do any of that.
No, I definitely drew. I had a lot of draw in my deck and not a lot of win conditions, which I think was the problem.
Okay. And it's also quite a slow format, which doesn't help.
No. Yes, probably not.
Yeah. People are calling this one Surveil the Bones because it's quite a lot like Read the Bones, which is definitely an EDH playable card. Read the Bones is scry 2, draw 2, and this is, I think, probably better. Surveil is almost, in almost every case, better than scry in EDH. Very few times where I'd rather have scry than Surveil on a card. So I think this is really EDH playable. I think it's on its way to being a Dimir staple draw card. It goes up there with quite a lot of other very similar draw cards which are in black. So if you're in blue as well, this is quite good. Obviously, if you're in blue, there's loads of options for great draw, but that doesn't mean that this isn't a good card. Yeah,
absolutely. I've also got a card. I didn't even. This is amazing, by the way, considering that I think about Magic, like, if not all the time. I didn't even know this card was in the set until Harry used it as a placeholder for my cards in the show notes today. So I couldn't believe it. Omnispell Adept. It had to stay there. Couldn't just be a placeholder and not be talked about in the episode. Omnispell Adept is 4 and a blue for a 3/4 creature human wizard. 2 and a blue, tap. You may cast an instant or sorcery card from your hand without paying its mana cost. How did I not know this card existed?
I did wonder.
Awesome.
This is your kind of card. This is Magical Christmas Land all over.
Yeah, this is.
Have you got an Expropriate? Insane. Do you own a copy of Expropriate?
I wish.
Okay, well...
Sorry, that was a bad example.
I mean, whatever big spells you want to cast, there you go, have them. You've just got to protect it for a turn until it can tap. Yeah,
exactly. Like you say, Expropriate, any of the really big extra turn cards. One thing I really like about this is it's very fair, and you can't cheat X spells. That's my big... I love casting massive, great, big red and blue X spells. I like that this pushes you in a different direction. This pushes you more towards big, splashy spells that don't necessarily deal damage or counter or draw. This is really big, scary stuff. I really like this card.
Another honourable mention from me is Plague Crafter, 2 and a black for a 3/2 human shaman. It's more relevant creature types. When Plague Crafter enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, and each player who can't discards a card. This is strictly better than Fleshbag Marauder and Merciless Executioner.
Oh,
I think.
Let's double check that.
Well, they are both 2 and a black for a 3/2. They're both 3 and a black for 3/1s. This is a 3/2, and they only say each player sacrifices a creature. This includes Planeswalker, and if you can't, you have to discard a card, which is amazing. So it's not strictly better because one of them's a zombie and one of them's an orc, and so relevant creature types are still relevant. If you've got a zombie deck, Fleshbag Marauder's better, but the fact that this has more text on it is just so good.
Yeah, we like more text, unless that text is bad. Also, relevant colour as well. In Golgari, you're going to be sacrificing creatures and bringing them back. That's not a bad effect to have on a creature that you're
not at all.
Repeatedly getting into the battlefield. That is something I look forward to either losing to or winning with.
Yeah, this has gone into my Abzan deck. I had Fleshbag Marauder in there anyway, so it's just a straight upgrade for me because I don't care about the zombie subtype. I did play this in my pre-release deck as well.
Brilliant.
And I had a wonderful moment where my opponent played a Nullhide Ferox on turn 3. I think it was turn 3. It might have been turn 4. And so I played this. Nullhide Ferox was her only creature. And so it went. Nullhide Ferox is a very difficult to deal with creature in Sealed. So I was quite pleased to top deck a Plague Crafter right then.
Brilliant.
So yeah, really good card. Just a nice simple effect that a lot of Golgari decks are going to want.
Yeah, my brother was moaning about this card on the way home. He was saying how he had one creature and no cards in hand, and at that point it just feels bad.
Yeah. Well, you don't get the option to discard a card instead. You can only discard the card if you have no creatures. If you're unable to sacrifice. But well, it's a new card. You can't be at fault there.
No, we're not fault. Thank you.
So you might have noticed that neither of us have mentioned Assassin's Trophy. That is for good reason. We decided that we don't need another set of people talking at length about it. We know it's a great card, and I think it probably is. There's a subtext here that says that Assassin's Trophy is our number one.
Yeah, hands down, 100%.
But,
Not my favourite, but definitely the best.
Not my. Yeah, it's just the best card in the set, but. It's not my favourite when it's pre-selling for 25. So
There are 5 cards I think that are better than Assassin's Trophy, and those are 5 of the Shocklands that have been reprinted. I think.
Oh yes, and Chromatic Lantern as well.
Boom! That card was getting up there in value. Was it not?
I think it was about $15. So get ready for $3 Chromatic Lanterns.
Ugh,
Just pick them up,
I
put
had
them in
sold
all your
mine.
decks. There's no reason not to put it in a deck, basically.
Yes, unless you're playing one colour deck, maybe.
Yeah, probably don't put it in there. There are better 3-mana rocks, if that's
But
the
yeah,
case.
definitely get them now.
I think it's going to be cheap for the next year or two, and then it'll creep up. Gilded Lotus was reprinted earlier this year, and I don't think that's going to go up in a hurry, but Chromatic Lantern probably will eventually. So sometime once it's dropped to its bottom price, just pick them up, put them in your decks. And the same with the Shocklands. The Shocklands are going to go down. I mean, I'm really hoping to pay £2 or £3 for the ones that I need. They're already dropping in price. We're a week after. Are we a week? We're only about 5 days after the set's been released here, and so they're already dropping in price. And I don't think those are going to go up in a hurry either. This is their third printing.
We'll need to watch out for standard, and if there's like a standard deck that is the deck and it plays them, I don't know if that will have a big effect.
I don't know. I think even then they're going to be played in standard, but I think even then, sometime in about 6 to 8 weeks. You're going to want to just pick them up, because I don't think even standard will have enough of an effect on them. They're just going to be so widely available. They're printed at Rare. It's their third printing. People are going to be opening Ravnica a lot, especially with a chase card like Assassin's Trophy to soak up a lot of the value. Shocklands are not going to cost as much, so keep your eye on the prices. But as soon as they get down below sort of $5 a piece, just hit go.
Yeah. So what are your conclusions of the set? What do you think? Not going to ask for an out of 10 rating, but what do you think about Guilds of Ravnica?
I think that it is the best limited set that I've ever played. The design is amazing. I think the synergy between different guilds is great. So the fact that Surveil pumps up your Undergrowth stuff and also your Jumpstart stuff, and Selesnya wanting lots of creatures on the battlefield. A lot of them have vigilance. This set sort of vigilance tribal, which allows you to convoke stuff. Your creatures you've got lots of creatures that are going to die in combat. That pumps up your Undergrowth stuff. I just think the synergy in the set is amazing, and it makes for a really cool limited environment. I'm going to go and draft it on Friday, and I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, Sealed was great. I think draft's going to be brilliant as well. There's a lot of interesting decks. It's not just 2 colour as well, so I wondered how it would work in draft. Because you've got 8 players trying to build in 5 decks, but there are also 5 3-colour archetypes which are really well catered for. There's a lot of design space in the 3-colour overlap between them. So that's brilliant. Are they
the shards or wedges? Do you know?
Some of them are shards, some of them are wedges, because these are not all enemy or ally colour pairs. There's I think it's 3 ally and 2 enemy, or the other way around. So that makes a couple of shards and a couple of wedges. But so I think it's Grixis and Jeskai, for example, and Naya, Sultai, and then another one. I can't remember which. So yeah, for limited, amazing. But for EDH, I think it's a little bit lackluster. I think the reprints are what really hold this up for EDH. We've mentioned, I think, between us, we've mentioned the only good cards for EDH. It was not hard to pick which ones I wanted to talk about today.
That's true.
The only reason I didn't include things like March of the Multitudes is because you were talking about them, and it hovers. It was close enough that I thought, actually I've got more favourite ones, and Tim's going to talk about it anyway. It's not a set that's jam packed full of amazing stuff for EDH, especially when you compare it to Dominaria and Battle Bond that we've already had this year, which are just it's just full of amazing stuff. There's nothing really splashy. There's a lot of sort of small staple stuff and small effects which are useful, like the card draw stuff we've talked about, or the March of the Multitudes, making more tokens, or things which assist strategies that you're already doing. There's nothing which is drawing me to do something new and exciting.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal with when Dominaria came out. There were lots of new legendary creatures and so many new strategies where I thought, well, I'm going to do this, Moldrotha. You think, oh, I'm going to build a very dedicated Moldrotha deck, or I'm going to build a Teferi deck in Brawl.
Exactly.
So yeah, they had very definitive archetypes, but not. You're right, not really with this one.
Yeah, and none of the commanders are particularly exciting. They're all quite narrow in what they're trying to do. You've got to really carefully build around them. So things like Imara wants to, when you tap her, you create a 1/1 soldier token. And so you've got to really build quite carefully to be able to tap and untap her multiple times per turn. And so because of that, I just don't think the commanders are very exciting. For some people, they probably are. For me, it's not really what I want to be doing. It's so narrow. It just hasn't hit the strategies that I like to play so much.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think particularly about the legendary creatures just being a bit, if this is what you want to do, perfect, but this is all you can do with these are the 5 strategies.
Yes,
if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Generally, what do you think?
I've really enjoyed the pre-release. I always really enjoy pre-release. If that's what playing Magic with strangers could always be like. It's the most GP feeling Magic for sure.
Definitely.
Everyone's very relaxed. No one's really thinking about, oh, I've got to get all 4 wins. Obviously, everyone wants to win 4 times, and no one wants to lose every single game. No one wants that. But I really enjoyed it. Everyone's having fun. Everyone was giving loads of people advice. No one was building their deck with little walls around them. And not that anyone actually does that, but everyone was helping each other build their decks and trying to figure out the best deck that they could play. I'll always have fun at pre-release. But yeah, the set, I'm really excited to be in Ravnica. I love the feel of Ravnica. I think it's the most. I feel like this is the most Dungeons and Dragons type set. Which I think it's so popular. This kind of setting, the City of Guilds setting, is a I know it really resonates with lots of Magic players, but particularly I really enjoy it.
Awesome, yeah. I think that the storyline, the feel, the artwork is just really evocative of what a lot of people love about Magic, and so it's great to be playing with cards and a storyline set on Ravnica again. I'm looking forward to seeing what where the storyline goes. It's just. I'm not even that upset that there aren't a lot of great cards for Commander, and I think that's probably because there's the Shocklands and the Chromatic Lantern reprint.
Big deal.
They're
nice. A really big deal as well.
They are, and that's going to change the EDH format going forwards for quite a while. EDH is becoming quite exclusive. If you haven't at this point got those more expensive lands and a lot of the sort of staple cards, it's quite difficult to get into. People who've been playing longer have definitely got the edge. I think EDH is becoming quite a difficult format to get into, which is probably why Brawl is becoming so popular, because it's so easy for newer players to get into compared with EDH, which has so many cards and is comparatively super expensive. And so I think just simple things like reprinting Chromatic Lantern, ubiquitous fixing for your decks, and Shocklands, making those cheaper and more widely available is a really great move to make EDH more accessible and therefore sort of shake the format up a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously we're never going to have too many people playing a format.
Definitely not.
You can definitely have it that it gets to the point where I'm not going to win unless I buy these cards. Not everywhere. There'll be bubbles of that and bubbles of we just have fun. You just kind of want to make sure that as many people as possible are able to play it. If possible, have spare decks of equal power to your other decks, so that people who don't have decks or don't have decks as good as yours can still play and kind of be on a level pegging. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, listeners, tell us what you think. You can tell us on Twitter at TPSMTG.
Yeah, follow us on there, and you'll probably get live tweets from Harry about all the events he goes to, which I recommend. So I knew how Harry was doing at the pre-release as and when it was happening. So you'll probably get that again next
cool.
week.
Good, yeah. It'll actually be before this is released, unfortunately, that I'm out drafting.
Oh, no.
But I will be live tweeting. I will let people know how I'm doing.
You can email us at turnpapersideways@gmail.com.
You can find us on YouTube and in all sorts of other places for your podcasts. And for all of these details and more, see the show notes. Tim, is there anything you'd like to say before we go?
Yes, I played EDH with my friend Cam, and he has a quadruple sleeved Joda Archmage Eternal deck. He shuffles it like poker chips. It's so weird, and he's so good at it. He shuffles his 4 times sleeve deck better than most people shuffle their single or double sleeve deck.
Well, if you've got a deck sleeve like that, you've got to be able to shuffle it.
Yes, absolutely.
I saw some pictures of this deck, and it is crazy. All of the lands, it seemed, are expeditions. It's
they're
all
either
foiled
expeditions
out.
or original dual lands.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Most of the cards are foil?
I mean, if there's a foil of the card, probably foil. Yeah. It's insane. It's
taken time
so
over
much
that
money.
deck.
I walked in and he was already playing it, and he had 4 lands out, and they were all original or revised or dual lands, and I was like, what are you playing? And why is your deck so tall?
Yeah, it stands like a foot off the table.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you. Cheerio.